Hi guys, welcome back to the Anime Multi-Universe. My name is Biggie. So today we're back with another reaction video. So I've got the Weeb Commander, Nick. Okay, so he's got a video here titled Why Toji is So Strong. I'd like to actually understand, especially because I saw Jujutsu Kaisen season 2 and, Toji just appears to be that guy, but we're never really given like that background context to say what type of training he actually had, etc. And to my knowledge, I'm not even sure if Toji was a sorcerer, So yeah, let's see what my man Nick has up in store for.
Magic under your belt and then learn that magic, cast that magic, and you're good. Other universes like Hunter x Hunter, Naruto, and JJK offer tons of different ways for you to get really strong. Whether that path be mastering the magic of that universe, doing a bunch of curls, or getting in a bunch of fights, all of those are very enticing ways to gain more strength in a universe. However, what if I told you the surest fire way to get strong in the JJK universe is to be weak? That some of the strongest people we've ever seen in Jujutsu Kaisen were born with malformities, and that those malformities are actually what makes these people strong. You probably wouldn't believe me, unless of course you've been watching JJK season 2, in which case you would know one of the strongest people we've ever seen in JJK, Toji Fushiguro, was born with these malformities. But what are these malformities? Are they physical? Are they spiritual? How do they apply? And can you learn them, or are you just born with them? But maybe more importantly than anything, what is this malformity called? Well, this malformity is called heavenly restriction, and there's tons of rules around it that operate differently depending on, well, who's being restricted. But there is one constant amongst all of these people being restricted by heaven, and that is that power comes along with these restrictions. And whether that power be physical or spiritual is kind of up to you. See, heavenly restriction is one of the most important things in the entirety of JJK, and yet a lot of casual viewers don't fully understand it, which is why today we're going to be covering all things.
I'm one of those casual viewers who don't understand it.
Gives them. Because while the events of JJK might make it look like heavenly restriction is gone, it is not. In more ways than one, it is not gone. So sit back, relax, and get your notepads out, because today we're explaining heavenly restriction. Before we get to explaining anything, guys, please, for you, this video, subscribe to the page and hit that noti bell. And if you love me talking about JJK, you're gonna love my anime podcast, because it's pretty much the only thing I'm talking about right now on my podcast. My podcast is called The Talk is Anonymous. I do it every week with Danny Mata, and we get you caught up with everything that happened in anime this week. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So, heavenly restrictions. Is it BDSM from God, the 11th commandment, or the surest fire way to get incredibly powerful in the JJK universe? Well, it would be kind of interesting if it was one of the first two. It is very clearly the third. But what is heavenly restriction? Who has it, and how does it affect them? Well, today we're going to be trying to answer all of those questions. But first, let's start this video off in the way that we tend to start these videos off, by asking the easy questions. So what is heavenly restriction? Well, in its plainest sense, it is a curse technique restriction. Now, curse restrictions in JJK are very common, and therefore, before we understand heavenly restriction, we should understand cursed restriction. See, in the JJK world, and I guess in the real world, in order to achieve something, something else has to be given. You want a chocolate bar, you give over money. You want a six-pack, you give over energy and time. And while in the JJK universe, there's nothing more important than emotion, and more specifically, negative emotion to increase your cursed energy output, curse restrictions are kind of number 2 on the list of important things. See, because outside of emotion, risk is also instrumental in amplifying somebody's curse technique. Meaning the more risk there is in somebody using their curse technique, the stronger that technique is going to be. So let's say hypothetically, my innate technique is a sniper rifle of cursed energy that allows me to shoot people in the head from 3,000 meters away. There's absolutely no risk whatsoever associated with my curse technique, and therefore it wouldn't be all that strong. If I miss, I can shoot again. If it doesn't kill them, they don't know where I am, and even if they do, I'm so far away, what are they gonna do? However, if my curse technique was a pistol, that if I shot into you, you died, but if I missed, I died, that technique would be very powerful, because there's a large amount of risk carried with me using this technique, therefore making it more powerful. And in fact, this is actually stated to be the fastest way to increase somebody's cursed energy output. Let's say hypothetically you're a grade 2 sorcerer, but you come across a special grade cursed spirit.
So that boy mega me strong as hell, because he's always trying to kill himself.
Cursed energy somewhere. And it's not like you're gonna get 10 years to battle this cursed spirit. You need cursed energy now. It's stated that the fastest way to get stronger as a sorcerer is to make a binding vow with your own life as the trade-off. Now, a binding vow is a pact made with Jujutsu that sets conditions for yourself or others. Now, the reason that I say for yourself or others is because binding vows can either be made with yourself or somebody else. And by imposing rules onto yourself or entering into an agreement with somebody else and staying within the confines of the agreement or rules that you've set, you increase your level of Jujutsu. But let's quickly go over
so it's like the heavenly pact. Because I remember, was it Joko and Geto, they kept talking about, when they went after Mekamaru, they kept talking about if it wasn't because of the heavenly pact, I think they defeat him quicker. So okay.
Two different kinds of vows, one with yourself and one with others. Vows with oneself are way more common than vows with another. You see, because as cursed energy is a product of negative emotion, it responds to the desires of an individual user, meaning that a user can increase their own cursed energy by increasing their negative emotion. And the best and most efficient way to do this is through cursed restriction, making your cursed energy more difficult to use. And by making your cursed energy harder or riskier to access, you're increasing the negative emotions associated with that cursed technique. However, if you make a contract with yourself and you break it, who cares, right? What are you gonna do, impose the rules on yourself as well? Well, it is kind of a who cares moment depending on the contract. See, if you make a hypothetical contract, we'll use Nanami's contract as an example, with yourself and then break that contract, you lose anything gained by that contract. So to continue using Nanami's contract as an example, we know that Nanami's contract is overtime, which is a binding vow with himself that while he's on the clock between the hours of 9 and 5 working for Jujutsu High, he can only access 80 to 90% of his cursed energy. However, this means that after 5 o'clock, when Nanami is still working and considered in overtime hours, he can use 110 to 120% of his total cursed energy, meaning that between the times of 4:59 and 5:01, Nanami can see a 40% increase in his cursed energy output. However, if
But what's the rationale for
9
that?
and 5 were to use 100% of his cursed energy, he would lose that binding vow, which would mean by the time it turned 5, he wouldn't be able to access 110 or 120% of his cursed energy. He would lose what he staked.
So what's the rationale for that? I actually didn't know that about Nanami. So the rationale is that if he finds himself in a situation where he's fighting for a prolonged period, he actually gets stronger.
And because Nanami is risking having less cursed energy between the hours of 9 and 5, he's gaining having more cursed energy after 5. However, the reason that self-imposed vows are the most common out of all of the vows we see is mostly because of the one type of vow that any Jujutsu sorcerer, regardless of their skill, can make: the revealing one's hand vow. You see, since the more risk involved with a cursed technique, the stronger the cursed technique, if you divulge how your cursed technique works to your opponent, it actually makes your cursed technique stronger. Now, is this technically just an exposition
Whoa, I
vehicle so
didn't know
characters can
this.
explain exactly how their technique works without any cutaway or pause in the action? Yeah. And is it pretty much one-to-one copied from Hunter x Hunter? Also, yes. But it also leads to some incredibly cool moments. See, while you can absolutely divulge how your technique works, and that will make your technique stronger, like Todo does in the fight against Hanami, you also technically don't always have to tell the truth. Let's say, hypothetically, Todo has a binding vow with himself that the only way he's able to teleport is by clapping his hands together. Todo can tell somebody that he's able to teleport every single time he claps, but he never has to necessarily say that he has to clap his hands together. And therefore, if hypothetically Todo were to slap his pec or something like that and create the sound of a clap, the opponent would believe that Todo was about to teleport, but he wouldn't. And thus, even though Todo has somewhat revealed his hand and increased his cursed energy, he's also made it so the opponent thinks they know what's going on, but actually
Man, that's some
very
Toji bullshit, but I get it.
Toji does it, Todo does it, everyone does it. Now, vows with others are a bit different. See, vows with others bind two people with cursed energy to a particular set of conditions that benefit both parties. However, breaking a vow with somebody else incurs way worse penalties than breaking a vow with yourself. A great example of one of these vows is like the vow between Sukuna and Yuji. In exchange for bringing Yuji's body back to life, Sukuna says that every time I say in chain, I get to take over your body for 1 minute. Now, Sukuna tries to give Yuji the rule that he won't kill anybody during that 1 minute so long as Yuji forgets about this vow ever being made in the first place. But Yuji very dumbly says no to this and challenges Sukuna to a fight. And thus, the binding vow switches, where if Yuji wins this battle against Sukuna, Sukuna wouldn't be able to control him. But if Sukuna wins this battle against Yuji, the binding vow happens and Yuji forgets about it.
I remember this shit. This shit didn't even take like 10 seconds, bro. Yuji, what is he thinking? Oh my
And Yuji loses immediately. Now, if hypothetically Yuji bound Sukuna to this deal and Sukuna killed somebody during the minute that he was in control of Yuji's body, there would be massive repercussions to Sukuna.
For
But Yuji kind
Sukuna.
of messes it all up by challenging Sukuna to a fight, so that rule gets dropped. Cool. Now that we understand binding vows, let's get back to cursed restrictions. Cursed restrictions actually apply more often in the JJK world than just the binding vows.
Hang on. Let me make sure I understand this first. So, Sukuna gave Yuji okay, let me
The
listen
reason
to this.
by the he says no to this and challenges one vow with somebody to two people with cursed energy to a particular set of conditions that benefit both parties. However, breaking a vow with somebody else incurs way worse penalties than breaking a vow with yourself. A great example of one of these vows is like the vow between Sukuna and Yuji. In exchange for bringing Yuji's body back to life, Sukuna says that every time I say in chain, I get to take over your body for 1 minute. Now, Sukuna tries to give Yuji the rule that he won't kill anybody during that 1 minute so long as Yuji forgets about this vow ever being made in the first place. But Yuji very dumbly says no to this and challenges Sukuna to a fight, and thus the binding vow switches.
Man, you're just an idiot, bro.
Wouldn't be able to control
That's why now he was able to remember that shit that happened in Shibuya.
Loses immediately. Now, if hypothetically Yuji bound Sukuna to this deal and Sukuna killed somebody during the minute that he was in control of Yuji's body, there would be massive repercussions to Sukuna. But Yuji kind of messes it all up by challenging Sukuna to a fight, so that rule gets dropped. Cool. Now that we understand binding vows, let's get back to cursed restrictions. Cursed restrictions actually apply more often in the JJK world than just binding vows. In fact, the reason that some regular humans are able to see cursed spirits right before they die is because of cursed restriction. The more that your life is in danger, or the danger you have of being cursed, the higher levels of negative energy and cursed energy you create. Meaning, whenever you're placed in an incredibly disadvantageous situation, you create the most power you've ever created, which allows you to sense cursed spirits. But cursed restrictions are definitely more common in the Jujutsu world than they are in the regular world. But probably the best example of a cursed restriction that's not a binding vow being the fact that Sukuna's Malevolent Shrine has a range of 200 meters because it's not enclosed. See, most domain expansions create a bubble of sorts, and because then it's either incredibly hard to get into the domain expansion or incredibly hard to get out. It can't really be both. However, if you create a domain expansion that you could simply just walk out of if you were close enough to the edge, you can massively increase the range of said domain expansion, as there's now risk associated with casting it, because somebody could hypothetically just walk out of it. Obviously, it's not the way that works for Malevolent Shrine, because everything within 200 meters of Sukuna is immediately shredded, but you could hypothetically walk out of Malevolent Shrine. The same goes for a lot of barrier techniques. Those who cast the curtain for Jujutsu sorcerers will stay outside of the curtain, because by staying outside of the curtain, they actually increase their chance of being spotted, creating said curtain, which will increase the curtain/barrier strength in the long run. Cool. You now understand cursed restrictions and binding vows. So now let's focus on the meat of the video, heavenly restriction. Heavenly restriction is a cursed restriction. However, the trade-off is physical ability for cursed energy, or vice versa. These are cursed restrictions placed on the body of a sorcerer at the moment of their birth. So unlike self-imposed vows or other cursed restrictions, these cannot be learned, meaning there's really only two ways to be born with heavenly restriction. Either be born incredibly physically blessed, or incredibly physically broken, and thus have the corresponding and opposite amount of cursed energy. So let's say hypothetically you're born with a very low amount of cursed energy. If you're born with a heavenly restriction, you'll have an incredibly physically talented body. However, if hypothetically you're born with an insane amount of cursed energy, if you have a heavenly restriction, you could be born with an incredibly frail body. And thus a heavenly restriction in its truest form is exchanging physical strength for cursed energy, or vice versa. And we've seen.
Damn, bro, I never thought about that, especially Mekamaru, dog. Damn, that's a good example.
They go both ways. Most recently, we've seen Toji Fushiguro, who obviously was born with zero cursed energy, but therefore born with an incredibly physically blessed body. But we've actually seen the heavenly restriction go the other way. Kokichi Muta, also known as Mekamaru, also has heavenly restriction, but an incredibly extreme example of heavenly restriction. And actually, the three people we're going to be talking about are all extreme examples of heavenly restriction, as the three people we're going to be talking about either have absolutely no physical ability or absolutely no cursed energy. Though you can be born with a little bit of cursed energy, however, the boost to your physical strength will be less than if you had zero cursed energy.
But okay, I hear what Nick is saying, but how do you get the heavenly restrictions? How do you impose it? Is it something you're born with? Is everybody in the Jujutsu Kaisen world born with it, or what?
And the opposite is true. You can be born with a really bad right leg, which will increase your cursed energy down the line, but you would have way more cursed energy if you could barely move your body. And that is the case with Mekamaru, or Kokichi Muta. See, Kokichi was born without his right arm, or the lower parts of both of his legs. He can't withstand moonlight or sunlight without getting a sunburn, and he's constantly in chronic pain that makes him feel as though every single pore on his body is being stabbed with a needle. However, in exchange for being the paper skin glass bones guy of JJK, Kokichi is born with an immeasurable amount of cursed energy that he uses to power his innate technique, puppet manipulation. Now, all of the puppets controlled by Kokichi are cursed corpses, which are non-living objects endowed with a curse to make them movable and controllable.
Yeah, now that I actually know this about Mekamaru, bro, they low-key did him dirty. Because to me, that level of trade-off, it should have been well communicated that this dude can do something as great as Toji. You know, because, I mean, look at Toji, just on his physical attributes, look what this dude can do. Right? Yes, Mekamaru might be younger, but I feel like the way they just wrote Mekamaru, bro,
through the mediums of cursed energy. Now, Masamichi Yaga, the principal of JJK High, is probably the most well-known user of puppet techniques, mostly because he was trying to make puppets that were able to live on their own. Kokichi is different. Any puppet that Kokichi is ever piloting, he is actively in control of. And these puppets are not only capable of discharging cursed energy, but also using cursed techniques. Now, usually, a Jujutsu sorcerer is capable of controlling 1 to 2 to maybe even 5 puppets at a time. But like we said earlier, since risk is heavily involved in making Jujutsu sorcery stronger, those controlling the puppets usually have to be pretty close by. high, because in order to control these puppets in any way that might be deemed even remotely powerful, there would have to be somewhat of a risk involved that you might be seen as the puppet master. This is not the case for Kokichi. See, Kokichi's range stretches across the entirety of Japan, which means that he can be controlling a Mechamaru
I'm sorry, I
puppet
take
from
back whatever I said. That's crazy.
Kilometers away. And as Kokichi and all of his Mechamaru puppets are considered semi-grade 1 sorcerers, this should show you the true strength of his heavenly restriction, as there is absolutely no risk involved with controlling any of these puppets, and yet he's able to achieve incredible levels of strength with them. And on top of having a range that covers the entirety of Japan and being able to control numerous puppets simultaneously over a span of thousands of kilometers, Kokichi actually has leftover cursed energy every single day that he's been storing so he can use this ultimate Mechamaru puppet for a specific circumstance that I'm not going to delve into in this long spoiler. So his case of heavenly restriction is definitely extreme. Now, going the other way, hypothetically you're born with 0 cursed energy. Well, that would be Toji Fushiguro. See, we learned from Yuki, a special grade sorcerer who you're going to meet in the anime in 1 or 2 episodes, that there have been a couple of instances where heavenly restriction has pushed the cursed energy of a sorcerer to the level of a non-sorcerer. And our most recent, and I guess only example in the anime yet of that is Toji Fushiguro. Toji was born to the Zenin clan, which is one of the royal clans of Jujutsu sorcery, and thus he was very much born with the brain of a sorcerer. However, he himself had no cursed energy, so he wasn't technically a sorcerer. Kind of like how Junpei was born with the brain of a sorcerer, however, never turned into a sorcerer for a couple of reasons. However, if Junpei was born into a royal family of Jujutsu sorcerers, him being born with no cursed energy would have to be the result of a restriction of some kind, like the balancing of scales. And thus, since Toji was born into the Zenin family, he was born with a level of physicality that the world hadn't seen unto that point, which makes Toji perfect as the sorcerer killer, because not only are Jujutsu sorcerers using the cursed energy of the person they're fighting, but also the people they're fighting aren't usually as fast as Toji Fushiguro. And while Koji does use cursed tools which carry cursed energy, he stores them inside of a Shikigami that he stores inside of himself. If hypothetically Toji had the inverted Spear of Heaven out, which is the sword he uses to stab Gojo a bunch, Gojo would be able to track the inverted Spear of Heaven because it carries cursed energy, significantly less than your average sorcerer, but still some. And this is actually why Toji stabs Gojo with just a regular katana when he first lets his guard down, and why Toji uses a regular old pistol against Riko Amanai. When Toji is holding weapons that have no cursed energy, they're just as invisible as he is. And however, this doesn't mean that Toji doesn't have cursed tools.
And you know what I love about this? I love the fact that like regular weapons can actually hit this morphos. You know, it would be interesting though to see if you can, because I understand the physical strength of these people differ. Like I'm pretty sure, you know, given what Nick is saying about Toji, if you were to try and stab Toji, it wouldn't be that easy as doing it to somebody like Gojo, because Toji is physically superior, right? But damn, that's interesting. I was like, dog, why would he just use a gun? That's so random.
We've already gone over, he has weapons like the inverted Spear of Heaven, which is able to nullify any cursed techniques it comes into contact with, which is why it's able to punch through things like the Limitless, which wasn't super well explained in the anime, but now I'm explaining it to you. And like I've already said, Toji does have one Shikigami that acts as a pocket dimension that he can seal all of his weapons inside of. And while Toji does have to bear the weight of all of the weapons inside of the Shikigami,
he's
much in the same way that
throwing
Megami has to bear the weight of anything that falls into his shadow when he activates his domain expansion, Toji is very strong and can hold all of his weapons. He just puts them inside of the Shikigami, 1, so he doesn't have to hold all of them constantly, and 2, so he can then swallow that Shikigami, and since the Shikigami is inside an invisible man and the guts of an invisible man are invisible to a Jujutsu sorcerer, hide those cursed tools from other sorcerers. However, Toji Fushiguro isn't the only person to ever use heavenly restriction in this capacity. We are now heading into manga spoiler territory here, so if you don't want to be spoiled on the powers of a couple of other Zenin clan members, I'd recommend skipping to the end of the video. So there is somebody else that we've already met in the JJK anime that has very similar powers to Toji. However, that person wasn't born with 0 cursed energy. They were born with a little bit of cursed energy. And because they were born with a little bit of cursed energy, they were born with a
Let me skip this bitch.
Is one of the possibilities that Yuki and Geto dive into when trying to figure out how to rid the world of cursed energy. However, for that to happen, every single human being would have to be born with a heavenly restriction, which just wouldn't happen unless every single human being was born hilariously strong with 0 cursed energy. But humans are inherently born with cursed energy. It's just only Jujutsu sorcerers have it to figure out how to rid the world of cursed energy. However, for that, she even has the same exact presence as Toji. However, this interaction between Mai and Maki makes people believe that heavenly restriction is something that can be applied later on in life. But that's not the case. It's a common misconception amongst manga readers. Heavenly restriction is something you have to be born with. And the manga doesn't do an incredible job of displaying this. And heavenly restriction for the entire population is one of the possibilities.
That was my question, to say that, okay, we understand, but how do you get heavenly restriction? So it's something you're born with.
That Yuki and Geto dive into when trying to figure out how to rid the world of cursed energy. However, for that to happen, every single human being would have to be born with a heavenly restriction, which just just wouldn't happen. Unless every single human being was born hilariously strong with zero cursed energy. But humans are inherently born with cursed energy. It's just only Jujutsu sorcerers have enough to be Jujutsu sorcerers, which is ironic because Jujutsu sorcerers actually don't emit any cursed energy. Therefore, if the entire world were Jujutsu sorcerers, there would be no emitted cursed energy, which would mean there'd be no cursed spirits, which is what Geto was trying to do. But that's it. Everything that you need to know about Heavenly Restriction. And if you watch the whole video, you'll know that Heavenly Restriction is far from gone in the JJK universe. In fact, there's more people than the person we described who are going to use it after where the anime is currently at. So knowing this information and how the power works will definitely help you down the line. But did I miss anything? Is there anything else from JJK you guys want me to describe? Tell me in the comments below. And while you guys are down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. Panda's the one who gets Heavenly Restriction. You thought I wouldn't spoil it? Here I am.
Damn, bro. You know, watching these videos, dog, just makes me a bit angry about like watching anime and stuff. It's like we don't really get like the full experience, bro. You know, I'm pretty sure even if I read manga, there's some of this shit, it's not like it's that well outlined. You know, like manga's deep, bro. You know, and this is something that frustrates me a bit about manga compared to like if you go into the comic book realm world where, you know, Superman's powers are simple to explain, you know. Zatanna, she's a magician, etc. But with manga, bro, they've got like these dimensions of how power systems work. They're just all so complicated. But hey, we thank people like Nick, dog. And yeah, before the next season of JJK drops, I wonder if he's gonna do like another video before you watch Jujutsu Kaisen season 3. You know, that would actually be great because we're missing so much information, right? But yeah, that's it for the reaction. Please leave a like for the video. Let me know what I should react to next. Subscribe to the Anime Malta Universe, and until next time, I'm out of here.